You had a powerful response to this story last night. Authorities have now identified the body of Tyler Clemente, the young man who leapt from a bridge after his college roommate secretly broadcast his gay sexual encounter live
more and more about in the past year or so, and was painfully highlighted again this week.
An openly gay 15-year-old boy named Larry, who was an 8th grader in Oxnard, California, was murdered by a fellow 8th grader named Brandon. Larry was killed because he was gay. Days before.
Each year, about 213,000 sexual assaults happen. One murder is committed every 35.6 minutes, and 91% of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender middle school students say they have been verbally harassed in school for their sexual orientation. What do all of these statistics have in common? Well, at least one can be applied to or even tells the story of someone within the WSU community. In August of 2011, the It Starts Now campaign formed after national reports of suicides among the youth within the LGBT community. The campaign hoped to not only bring awareness to the national epidemic, but also take a stand and make change within the community. The It Starts Now campaign began early this school year, and mission was aimed at creating a safe environment for the entire WSU community. The campaign, which has since grown, started as just a simple idea.
It Starts Now was never intended to be a project or a campaign. It started off as a conversation with a student. It happened about a year and a half ago. All across the nation, there were all these reports of young adults committing suicide because of their real or perceived sexual orientation. And Dan Savage started the It Gets Better campaign, which was great because there was nothing out there, and it was an epidemic, and it was serious. We were losing our young people to this tragedy.
Savage's It Gets Better campaign was created to show young LGBT people the potential and levels of happiness their lives can reach. It Gets Better has reached thousands across the world with the help of YouTube videos created by everyone ranging from college students to celebrities. Although there has been a strong push from the media to end bullying, educators across all levels say they have witnessed bullying of some type and in some form.
I haven't seen the bullying that's real nasty, you know, get kids kicked out of school type stuff, but I think every day you see some sorts of almost like kids trying to rank themselves to, you know, who's higher up in the food chain and who kind of controls each group of friends.
You know, in my experience, there are basically 3 types of harassers or bulliers. There's the unintentional kind that don't really realize the impact of their behavior on somebody else. There is the insensitive kind who know that what they're doing is wrong, but they're doing it to get a laugh. Usually they're doing it to get attention in some way. And then there's the hardcore who know exactly what they're doing and their intention is to hurt and demean.
Even students on the WSU campus say they have either seen or personally experienced some type of bullying or harassment.
My personal experience was with another college student, a male, so I won't go too in-depth on that. I also had an experience with a professor. It was resolved pretty quickly, but just kind of crossed some boundaries that I wasn't comfortable with.
Students involved with the It Starts Now campaign initially met weekly to construct a script of personal narratives to be performed. As students began to dig deep into the rehearsal process, the initial goal to bring awareness to the suicides among youth grew to be much more.
Moving from a large city, I feel like this campaign would actually expose people to a different population, a population that it's in the obscurity, and that's why I think it's very important for the school and for our community.
It's a thing of hope, which is what people that don't necessarily feel like they fit into the status quo or they're neglected by society. It gives them hope that eventually things will work out.
Starts Now to me really means that we're making a difference in some people's lives because a lot of people aren't spoken up for, and I think this campaign does a really good job of bringing out voices that nobody really hears or wants to listen to. And I think it's important that we give those voices some sort of power.
The student-led performance was broken down into 3 acts to help highlight each performer's personal experience.
Around that same faith, fostered silence.
You know, it's the telling of everybody's stories, and in the telling of these stories, it allows other stories to be told. And so in this performance, we're sharing that. In a lot of ways, people are talking about their shame and their hurts and saying, we're not going to be ashamed anymore. We're not going to let other people hurt us. This is what we stand for.
Stanton says, with the performance now behind them, the campaign now plans to create DVDs and a facilitator's guide to help further educate the community.
A great DVD that I want to use as a training tool so that we can have these conversations, so that what started as one conversation becomes this great conversation, this great dialogue, not just for this group of people, but something that we can take out of WSU, out of GSORC, into the classrooms, into other universities, into different conferences, and share that when you talk about these things, then you can take away some of the power of the negativity and put that power into making change.
Administrators at Lincoln Middle School say the facilitator's guide and listening to others' personal experiences could potentially be helpful in ending harassment on campus.
We all had that moment in our life to where something happened to us, or we felt that way as a victim or as a target. And it's powerful for everybody to hear, because we all have our own moment that we remember, whether you're almost 40 years old like me or whether you're still 12. It doesn't matter. We all have our moment, and they stick with you. And that's why the whole topic is so important. So.
With their first official year now behind them, members of the It Starts Now campaign now say they hope to see a bigger and brighter future.